Buonasera, questo dialogo fa parte di In prospettiva, Dialoghi sul teatro, una serie di appuntamenti nati dalla collaborazione tra Emilia Romagna Teatro Fondazione e il Dipartimento delle Arti-La Soffitta dell'Università di Bologna, con la curatela di Gerardo Guccini, Claudio Longhi e Rossella Mazzaglia. Il progetto In prospettiva, Dialoghi sul teatro, consiste in una serie di incontri che danno voce ad artisti, studiosi ed operatori del mondo dello spettacolo dal vivo, per interrogarsi sul ruolo delle arti performative in questo periodo di grandi trasformazioni. A partire dal 16 novembre, il terzo e ultimo ciclo dedicato al binomio spettatore-persona porta avanti l'indagine sul nostro presente, iniziata già con i 2 precedenti capitoli, dedicati a Corpo-Mente e Sistema-Ambiente, attraversando l'evoluzione dell'emergenza da coronavirus e le prospettive di resistenza ed esistenza che sviluppano prassi poetiche e riflessioni da parte degli artisti che vivono lo scenario attuale. I am very honored today to meet an artist that I really love. Today we are with Kornél Mundruczó, Hungarian theater and film director known all over the world, who founded the independent theater group Proton, with which he still works today. I'm very happy, Kornél, to meet you and to have this exchange with you.
Yes.
And thank you, welcome.
Happy to be here, thank you.
And I have a lot of things to ask you. And it's so important now for me personally as a director and for the Italian artistic community at large to connect with you as an artist who reads the world through its and our own complexity. And you do it through many and different languages, such as theater, cinema, opera, and with the research with the independent theater group Proton, and especially through our own experience of the world. I mean, a world constantly undergoing intense and rapid changes that inevitably reflect on our lives. Today, how would you tell your story and your ongoing artistic biography?
Thank you for the question. For me, it is really organic. I started to touch base for a new topic I'm started to work with, and always the most important things just to be as personal as I can. So I'm Eastern European. Obviously, I rooted deeply this kind of Eastern idea, which is exactly what you told. It's see life as complex as we can. We see a lots of contradictions all around us, and for different reasons, my stories, which is just pop up from a book or pop up from newspapers or just pop up from by fantasy, it's always try to describe those contradictions which we live in inside. And to be honest, that I'm not very much like a calculative director, so I always try to follow my gut and also try to follow other artists. I always do big collaborations in between artistic group like Proton Theater, or a writer like previously Ved Biro, or today or this year's Kata Weber, and I really appreciate their work. And to be honest, I'm a film director. So when I'm standing in front of my mirror, I identify myself that and I'm a film director. So I'm kind of a guest on stage. What does that mean? I'm a film director. What is crucial and very important for me is reality. Reality, which is surrounds us, and our own reality as well. How you feel your reality. And the second, which is also connected to the fact that I identify myself as a filmmaker, that I'm a storyteller as well. So also to discover stories, to discover new stories as well is super important. And it's kind of a mother language for movies. And in that sense, what I try to make on stage is the same logic. Just be connected as much to society and reality, and try to find new stories and authors and artistic. Unlimitedness is also very much important on stage. And when I start working with my independent group and with my collaborators, so many times we don't know where we ended up. I mean, especially back in time, that was sometimes, there was a few written page that was like a strong topic. Then we, as a collaboration, started to discover the whole topic. This year's it's more written, mostly because I find an amazing writer, Kata Weber, but also I a little bit changed the past, 4 or 5 years, and started to change the narrative as well. So my early works, which includes in theater, Ice, or Nibelung Residency, Disgrace, Hard to Be Cut, is formally way more avant-garde and provoking, even as an image. Like something like also goes out to a physical space. So it's creating a bridge in between the auditorium and the stage, and the physical experience is very important. Very important that we all together go into a territory which we never been before, and let's try to discover that territory together. And let's, if I may say, occupy that territory together, and understanding that what's there. And that's why one was the key word for me. It's a very abstract keyword, but territory. Like, can we find new territories in art? Can we find new forms for storytelling? Can we find something like provoking as blood and meat, for all of us, which goes back to the ancient time of theater making, when the Dionysia or the ritual or something which is happening with you as important than the intellectual meaning of that. But later, since I've started to feel, what if, and it's a bit like connected to my personal reasons, I'm older, then I started to feel, what if the surface started to be a little more classic or conservative, something like also the storytelling more hidden or covering, but is inside, it's even more sharp and provoking. So since Imitation of Life or Evolution or Pieces of a Woman, it's the surface is way more decent, way more classic, if I may say conservative. But what's inside, it's a bit like in your brain. You have your square, this is the theater, but what's inside it can be very radical. And that somehow started to be very interesting for me. So since then I start to creating stories, and those stories are more written, more narrative, more simple, and focusing very tiny thing, and those very tiny contradictions, like one or two, and expand as much as we can, and be understanding the major focus later, then it's resonate more of our times. And also something what I felt, I'm living in a country which is overly political, okay? So especially these years, our freedom of art is targeted, and also you have to get a position as an independent artist. And back in time when the form was more radical or provoking itself, the look, let's say that, I started to feel that I became somehow a little bit of a clown of the system. What I meant about that the good king, the bad king, whatever the king, the power needs their own clowns. Okay, and I started to feel that, oh, what I'm creating, how am I fighting, or how I get a position, it feels childish, and also a little bit clownish, but because of the power above. So later I found it, okay, but then how can I change that? And I felt that I can change that if I can step closer to the human beings and just to human problems, and just try to be even more personal and even closer to the human questions, which we can lose our human values these years. And that's why I started to change the form and started to be closer to the characters I'm creating, and also just use more empathy, and in a way go back a little bit as an artist and create more space for the stage, for the actors. Those pieces, the last pieces what I did, it's way more performance pieces, so it needs the actors tremendously. There are no covering, nothing. They are purely on stage, and what they create, that's also the meaning, a forgotten meaning, the quality of acting what we are targeting. So yeah, this is my answer, if it's an answer, but yeah, I mean, that's somehow the part of my storytelling.
I thank you. I totally agree with you, and about it, I would like to talk to you about the research of this series of interviews, and I'm talking about the relationship between spectator and person. You just told me something about it, and in your last answer, then I would like to ask you what is for you, what characterize for you the relationship between spectator and person. Let us start from the perspective that the spectator is first and foremost a citizen. And I would also to understand how you imagine the spectator and the citizen, identify them in your work. People who participate not only in the artistic vision of a community, but also in a civil and political vision of the present, as you said. Then, as a director, in a way, you are a kind of spectator of the world, and you can feel in another kind the same position of the spectator who see your film or your show. I know there are a lot of questions, but anyway, what do you think exactly now about the relationship between spectator and person?
I mean, first of all, the spectator is so important for me. This is a cliche. This is almost what everybody says. But in the same time, I feel that you have to create adult audience. Adult audience means they have as much responsibility for the stage as you as an artist. And responsibility means that you need active audience, and those active audience is activated by the stories you tell. And without, my stories are not working without the audience. It's also cliche, but if you imagine a classical stage with classical adaptations and a lots of code which is already existing, and the audience can read it without to be active at all, you know. And even if you're watching a Hamlet or watching a classical piece, then immediately you can switch off. So if you started to create new stories, at least you are appreciate the activity. But also, more than this, spectators are always minority. Minority means inside the society, as you know, as majority, or even the ideology behind that. It is lost when you're coming into the space. You don't know what will happen, especially with my early works. That was so important for me, as I thought, to open up and discover new territories together. Like just go into like in a rabbit hole, okay? And we are facing question of society, political questions, and especially, but through the journey. And that journey is so important. What does that mean? Theater is a frozen form, okay? It is traditionally so long inside that box, in a very slow evolution, let's say that. And how you can warm up the form of theater, how you can make any kind of fire or emergency for the stage. So for me, the major interest as well, also the late pieces, also the early pieces, it's something common, that how you can scratch somehow the surface of theater, how you can creating moments, not whole evening, but moments inside that, which is not theater anymore, which is above that, which is something like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on, I don't know who I am, I don't know who are you, but I have to react with all of my responsibility, with all of my honesty, on the surprise of the storytelling of the theater itself, or those scratches, those holes somehow. And then that is, in my opinion, this kind of scratch on the body of the frozen theater, for that is go back to the real theater, okay, or real art moments, or real reality of the spectators, because it cannot be anything else but their own reality in the same time. So they are not in security anymore, you know, when it's just like when the major base of a performative art, it's rise up. So in that sense, those moments are never born without audience. I mean, those moments born exactly with audience. And that's why I thought that for me, audience is kind of everything. It's like really everything, but not in the sense that, oh yeah, we need to work for the audience. Oh, we need full houses. We need to be clapped. And, you know, like in the garderobe, not just the coat there, but your head as well. And then you coming to celebrate. Person and spectator. Okay, that's a very difficult question. Okay, first of all, I'm responsible about myself, my family, maybe with the very close collaborators in a way or another, but you cannot be responsible for a kind of a unknown group, except if it's a community, but it's still a very difficult question of that. So what I can do as an artist, to use my personality as deep as I can, and I try to be as honest as I can, and try to be not manipulative and not be populist as in real society.
Thank you.
And in that sense, if you use your own personality for the spectators, it's kind of the melange what I'm looking for.
Wow. You make me want to ask you something about thinking about reality, responsibility. Now you make me want to ask you something about your work with the actors and the actress. Your relationship with the body on the stage, the body on cinema. I'm very curious to ask you something about your excellent work with actors and actresses.
I mean, they are really, I mean, my work is not working without actors, and even not working without high-level acting, because I'm not a formalist. It's really important to understand that my theatrical form is not something which you can use as a big structure which is always work and you can change the elements. Of course, for no one, but there are more formalist theater and there are more like poetic or personal theater, and mine is completely in the second half. And also, I'm a storyteller and I'm creating kind of performance pieces. So I really need high-level artists as well for acting. And in time, I find quite a few amazing, and that's why I try to be very reliable and also all the time asking the same amount of people to working with me, because I deeply believe in their talent. Those are really what they can give. It's almost like in the Orthodox religion there is the icons.
Yes.
So if they are a good acting, a layered, complex acting, it's nothing else but a gate. Nothing else but a gate to go to somewhere through them, And this kind of iconic acting, it's nothing else but really, again, kind of creating an open door to the audience to go in, look around, understanding, feel it, all those things. It's never aggressive. It never wants, never has a will to be someone. That's why is the big actors always so much in pain, just to be open for everyone to coming in and look around. Yeah. And when I see someone like Lili Monori, for example, or Roland Rabo, it's when they are playing the first duet of Imitation of Life, or Anna-Marie Land, what she did with Disgrace, especially with the beginning, with the big scene with the father and the rape, and it's such a sacrifice, such an amazing complexity. And but not just Hungarians. I work with Justina Vasilevska in the Tia Theater in Warsaw, and also what she creating there with Pieces of a Woman was amazing. So in that sense, again, I'm a contemporary, kind of an avant-garde art or hardcore reality or whatever what I've read about myself. But inside, I'm pretty conservative. Conservative in that sense, I need good acting. But good acting doesn't mean like tricks or acting skills. Good acting means like it's a quality above and this kind of openness. Storytelling. Also, I'm a narrative guy. I'm really using a story for go from A to B, from B to C, and just finish it up in a 3-act piece in a way or another. And that's somehow, in my opinion, that kind of surprising surprising if the acting is not full with cliché, if the storytelling is not full with cliché. So that's what we are looking for. And again, I mean, I'm really creating performance pieces all the time, and so many times it's great to feel that in my pieces actors are so celebrated, and that's fantastic. That's the best what you can feel.
Thank you. You said you are storyteller. Then about this, I really appreciate in your art always the relationship you build between, we can say, fable and reality. And this makes me think of some writings on the cinema of Pierpaolo Pasolini. Talking about his work on Uccellacci and Uccellini, he talks about his choice of the fable structure in particular. And it refers to the fact that it allows us in detachment to implement the graded search for authentic values in a degraded world. And this recall me your work, and I would like to say if you find any resonance with these words.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And also I think storytelling or art, big words, my art, I don't really believe the factual art, like which is based on facts and realistic, like on a documentary way, because I always feel that it's just not true. It just doesn't targeting the truth above, you know, like it's factual. It feels like you clever, feels like you intellectual, feels like in a newspaper, but it doesn't step further or above. And in that sense, I pretty believe poesy and spiritual art, which is close to fable and fables and close to create. I mean, not create. You never create metaphors, right? You're creating kind of fables what can be a metaphor, or you can feel as a parabola. But you never concentrate to creating metaphors, because if you're creating metaphors, it's gone. Like bye bye. It's immediately just be outside and engineering, and that's not really working. I feel myself very close to Pasolini as well, especially for the early works, because it's a fine combination in between harsh, reflective society question, but in the same time very emotional, almost melodramatic storytelling. And of course, when you are digging into society and started to make the scale shorter and smaller and shorter and smaller, and focusing on a very micro level at the end, that is like in a microscope, that is started to become very big. And in his works, in my opinion, that's always there. And also there is a poetic level which is very much resonate me. So yeah, but I mean, he was so full with the left idea and with the Catholicism in the same time that I connected with this too, but more like an observer, or more like a spectator, like a spectator who loved his work. But that's why I told the early works, which was like more covered and more melodramatic and social reflective. That was what is very close to me. And of course, his political attitude was also great. In that sense, he's never protesting, you know, like he was not a real protester. He's always, through his fable, through his mythological crazy ideas, but also like something when he really creating poetic reality, you know. And if you're watching the most brutal movie by him, the Salo, it's almost like a poem, you know. I mean, it feels like it's never really watched. I mean, you never really watch that as reality, even if you know that this is the truth. This is not reality. It is truth, and that's something which is always has to be a fine balance. That where you, how far you can target this, and when you can lose really this kind of factual, objective ideas, which is always small or many times just journalism.
Yes, thank you. And imitation of life. Wonderful title for a wonderful show that you created with your independent group Proton, and in which the atrocities of the present and your imaginative capacity are intertwined to create wonder, pain, and catharsis. I think that our life today are immersed in the atrocities of capitalism and confused by those of the pandemic. And in a way, we are in a sort of imitation of life. I think that this is what theater has always been. I mean, telling life through the myth. We talked about the fable. Now I choose the word myth. Mm-hmm. The theater was and could be an imitation, or what is most unbearable in life to accept and understand it. But I feel today we risk losing the importance of the ritual. Do you think theater can respond to this crisis or not? And if the theater can respond, how in this moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's very tragic, this pandemic, and obviously it's a big hit to every society, and of course it is a historical moment, and we have historical moments, but not every year, obviously, and of course it's tragic because it's dangerous, but in the same time, in my opinion, there are kind of a meaning which I appreciate, that it's a little bit like a wake-up call, you know. It's a little bit like, okay, can we appreciate our values? Are we missing them? Which was almost forgotten. You understand what I mean? If we cannot go to cinemas, if we cannot go to theater, and we cannot go to be together, that what's left? Can we celebrate enough those times back in the past, those moments when we went to the theater, when we went to the cinema, when we just be together and share the meal? In my opinion, we forget that. We forget how good for us, how luxury life we live in, you know, and how much we can lose these values so easily. So in my opinion, I did 2 little projects during the pandemic. One was a one chamber opera in Germany, and we premiered in August, July, when the theater was still open. And of course, we have lots of restrictions. And you know, it was a great work. It's a Bertolt Brecht, Kurt Weill, the Sieben Todsünde, and you know, I mean, it was the restrictions. It was only, I don't know, 250 people for 1,000 seat, and you know, the clapping was not stopped. It felt like, oh, this is pandemic as well. Okay, we have the mask, but in the same time, it's a crazy limitation, but an amazing celebration when it's out. And also that's what I felt in the Venice Film Festival. Like I went, you know, so many film festivals, and everybody was angry, and everybody was like, oh, my movies became successful or not, or you know, like or when you are coming for the cinema to not to be comfortable or just hate what you want to see. But now I think it's way more open, way more celebration. And in that sense, pandemic send a good message as well. Especially imagine if we are out, the vaccination coming, and as in the Spanish flu, it's easy to forget, you know, because then, you know, you're good, you're safe, and as humanity is almost living in dementia. Once I did a project about dementia as well, also as a metaphor of our times. But definitely, I think would be great to get the most out from the pandemic and just make theater, cinema, or art itself as much as a celebration or ritual, use your word, as before. And we easily lost that and using those events as just part of the entertaining business or a part of the show business. Back to the imitation of life. Imitation of life was kind of the most and the first moment when I tried this new narrative. And of course, I'm working with two geniuses, Lily Monori and Roland Raba, and first time was Kata Weber, also very, I mean, really writing and focusing on something very tiny. And in that piece is really representing many things. I'm still believing in it. We're starting with a harsh reality, like someone want to kick out an old woman from her apartment, and then you have a very social reflective debate about that, and then you, as someone who is the oppressor, who works for the power, then you know, the old ladies became sick or became in a bad shape, then it's really measure your humanity, then what you are doing there. And then he give a call to the ambulance when he needs help, or someone who is almost dying there, and the ambulance doesn't come. And then you have the moment, then you will be measured as a human being. What are you doing? And there is the moment in that piece always where we have, like, I don't know, 2-3 minutes silence, and we don't know what this guy will do. Like literally we don't know. And basically what's happening is be one of the spectator. We became as a community open up a hard question. Even we need, like, to understand that complexity, like, I don't know, 30 minutes storytelling before. But in that position as a viewer, then you are that human being. You don't know. I mean, the big question, what are you doing through him? You know? And to build up almost monotonically this one question, that was super important for me. And not about, you know, not just about the race, and not just about the gypsy question, it's just also part of the complexity of it, you know. But this single question, when you are there as well with this actor, and ask, okay, what he will do. And that's somehow, that is right before the moment when the stage turning, and the whole stage became like a destruction or a birth. We don't know what is that, but because of the revolution of this question. And later, the second part, how we can go into more the memory and the fantasy world of someone's brain, or is reality, or we lose the reality and it's above reality, it's open up like a mythical space. That was the major meaning of the second half. And I love the title, It's Not My Idea. It's a Douglas Sirk movie, Imitation of Life, from the 50s. And I loved it. I find it like, it's the most provoking title I ever read, that which life is imitation, what's on the screen or on the stage, or our life is imitation of life, or how long we can imitate our life and how long we can build up our roles and without to be ourselves, and how difficult to find ourselves for every human being. And that's something like a task for your life, and art can help a lot on this, I believe.
Thank you. And wow, you talk about complexity, and I need to ask you something about a very hard word, democracy. What is your idea of democracy? What can we really do every day for democracy, if we need democracy? I don't know.
I mean, no question we need democracy. Democracy is our base. It's our structure since the Greeks. When we lose it, then we go back to democracy. We lose it, and we go back to democracy. Democracy is the most non-human element. Let's say that. I mean, democracy is something which is the best dream of human beings. So definitely we need democracy. But our time, it's difficult to compare, because sometimes you feel like we talk about democracy, but since how you live in it, it's not democracy at all. It is way more like capitalism and the wide rules of capitalism. And when you started to understand that, then you see the populism on the backwater, on the floating as a backwater of the capitalism, how much rising up. And that's somehow you have to understand. And especially, I don't know much about democracy. I know quite the idea, but I'm born in a country where you don't have democracy. Even that is the democracy of the folks, but it was a dictatorship, And then I was 14 years old when the change happened in '89. And then everybody celebrate that now we have the democratic institutions, and the societies became understanding or slowly learn what democracy is. But in early 2000, I recognized it, as many others, that the past 10 years was everything but not democracy. It was just white capitalism on an empty marketplace, let's say that. And the borders became open, not because of deliver some democratic values, more like deliver hard and economical rules, yeah. And then when was enough painful, then the whole society started to change and started to facing back to the good old democracy, which was the dictatorship,
Yes.
And started to feel that we was cheated. And what does democracy means if it's painful and means kind of nothing except the existential fear, because the capitalism, or the white capitalism, or a vulgar capitalism, which exists on those countries in the 90s, I mean, at least my country, then it's really became and rising a lots of existential fear. And later, when we have a little bit more articulation on democracy, we already started to lose it. Lose it means now it's a populistic country. Of course, we have certain democratic laws and still on paper, but the constitution is changed kind of randomly, and I'm not sure I never live in a country which is a real democracy, because first it was a white capitalism and then became kind of a harsh populism facing back more in the soft communism, and it's this melange. So what is democracy? I mean, maybe in the West has a big tradition of citizen and citizenship and democracy. We don't really know. But can I believe, or I believe on democracy? I don't believe anything else but democracy. You know, even if you have even if you never tried. You understand what I mean? This is something which was which is a very painful understanding, to be honest. That is that what does that mean for the citizens when you learn that what you never get immediately lose, you know, and then like what to do. And of course you cannot compare, you cannot make a general thought. So I'm working a lot in Germany, and I think after the post-war trauma is built up kind of a real democracy, even if that democracy is also has lots of problems, and you need to be criticized by art and artists and press and everything. It still has a common values which we are not targeting. But if you're coming from a country where those common values are not really existing, except to believe in a father figure, or whom we can follow with, that's not the same. Yeah, but still better to believe in a democracy than in a good king. But definitely not a bad king.
About your country and about democracy, I'm thinking about CZF, a university student. I remember you stand for them in Venice. I remember your T-shirt, and now I would like to ask you, how is the situation now for them, for an artist as you, who feels as very important justice and fairness for him and for the other artists and students of his country.
I mean, the universities was my alma mater. It is it's very painful even to talk about it. So how this university lose the autonomy this time, it's absolutely ridiculous. And we have so many elements like that in the past. If you started to see Hungarian history, and the past years, what happened with the CE University or some internet pages, and now with the University of Theatre and Film, that's somehow a little bit of the just like how we can kill the liberal democratic idea out of a nation. and how we blame it with the paranoia that we were blamed back in time for something which was not really there, and of course to be targeted as a post-communist movement, that as the university was before, it was like a post-communistic, same people over there, and now we have to be open up and for other ideas as well. It is, and in under that umbrella, what we are basically creating is exactly that communistic idea, which is this university was so deeply against it. That's insane and ridiculous. And I think those students who make the blockade and they said we would like to decide it about our university as students, it's a part of the history movement for the Hungarian society. And I think they became heroes in time because exactly because of that, and exactly because they stand for something which is so uncommon, and of course you feel it as in many other revolutions that is failed easily, and most probably it's absolutely superfluous and unnecessary in the same time. But you know, you cannot stand, you can't not stand for them. And what is the reality? You know, pandemic has a little bit killed this whole thing. I mean, nothing happened, and you know, it's a very cynical state, says we don't do anything, but they elected the curators above them, and those curators are absolutely chinovniks of the system or the regime, what they are, and very good and bad artists. I mean, it's both sides, and yeah, kind of this, and somehow lost something which was always this kind of historical belly of the of Eastern Europe. You know, you build up something for 80 years, and someone or the new things coming and destroying, and you build up again, and it's kind of a never-ending story. And yeah, that's what I meant, and of course I'm hopeful, and I try to stay as hopeful, but as much as I see the reality, I think at the end it just became tiredness from both sides, you know, in a way, like the reaction from abroad is not there anymore at all, then which is good for the state, and they just don't move anywhere, and the pandemic and everything. And you know, as much in 56 revolution in Hungary, you know, I mean, no one said. And for a small country, you know, I mean, it's a small country syndrome as well. But see, you know, I mean, it's bigger than our university. What's happening in White Russia, you know, like Belarus. So I mean, come on. So you cannot compare. So we still living in a democracy, and we still live. Our life is still good. Let's say that compared to many. If you find your good ghetto inside, then you okay. That's that's it. But it's very tragic, obviously, very tragic.
And my little last question is about the future. I know now it's very difficult to imagine the future, but I just ask you a little postcard from the future to us, and imagine as you want. Just I would like to close this dialogue with a postcard, a little postcard from the future.
I mean, as Kafka said, don't give up.
Thank you. Thank you, Kornél. Thank you. Thank you.